record this time. Hi, this is Tiara International, and we do usually Friday Facebook Lives, but there was a disconnect between Zoom and Facebook today, so we just thought we would throw our hat in the ring with a Friday YouTube Live and see how it worked out. So far it seems to be working out quite well. So I highly doubt that we have a live YouTube audience, but if someone out there starts watching, awesome, thank you, welcome. And then everyone will see this, as a recording. We'll put it on Facebook. We'll put it in our playlist for Tiara Talks on YouTube. And for those of you who are new to us, we are a women's leadership development company, and we provide women's leadership services really in many ways. Corporate programming like mentorship and leadership development and executive coaching, individual coaching for women in transition or female leaders who are really wanting to take their careers to the next level strategically, or maybe even start something new. And then we have a virtual community, the Tiara Resource Circle, where anybody can get a dose of Tiara. We have fresh programming each month. It's a super low $15 a month fee, and you get actually quite a bit of leadership development on an ongoing basis for that. So that's who we are and what we do. I'm Betsy Sobiak, one of the global leaders, and with me today I have Dr. Allison Miller.
Hi, everyone. Glad to be here today and Betsy. It's always a pleasure to have a conversation with you.
I know, and we're talking a lot right now because of the fact that we're co-leading a current leadership series for our Resource Circle members, and also this one is for the public, and it's about how to put yourself back into your life with self-care, mindfulness, and self-compassion, which I know is a topic that is really important to you, and we thought that we would just do a little Facebook Live on that because we hadn't. Like, we've jumped in, we've started leading the series, and we really haven't done one of these on the topic. So it's really at the top of our minds, and it seemed like a good thing to do. So just to start, why has this been such an important personal topic for you? I think as long as I've known you now and through your whole career of coaching, self-compassion, self-acceptance, self-care, that's really been a backbone of what you stand for.
It's true. And I think the reason it resonated with me so much is because something kind of deep within me knew that was the form of healing that I needed, to be honest. And it's interesting, Betsy, when listening to you just now, it makes me reflect on, honestly, all the different incarnations that you've seen of me in the time that you've known me and the path you've seen me on. Because I think when you met me, my understanding of self-care, I had one, but it was largely intellectual. It was not an embodied understanding. And I would describe that the reason I think that self-care and self-compassion and mindfulness and all of these things are so important is because they really are fundamentally about, I think, probably what is the underpinning of really leading your life with power and with ease, where you feel like you actually can move through your life and co-create with life, influence outcomes, produce results that matter, live in a way where you feel like the interior of yourself is what, in a sense, moves out of you into the world. None of that can really happen without being able to deeply, deeply care for the fact that you're incredibly vulnerable as a human being, and you have this nervous system that can go off in any moment, and that we don't have any comprehension, true comprehension of all the ways as human beings that we've been wounded. We don't really, things could have happened when we were in utero, really. Many things happen before we're verbal. We have no way to access or language the vulnerability, how someone can say something and we can feel like we're 4 years old. Even when we're the CEO. Doesn't matter how accomplished we are. And this incredible vulnerability that exists, and I don't know that it goes away, even though I know we want to believe we're going to transcend it, I certainly believe that, is about being able to deeply, deeply care for the inherent vulnerability that underlies our lives, that's always there, that can be touched into. When we can do that, when we can become real caretakers of ourselves, and we show up for ourselves in that way, then we can rise up and meet life as it unfolds in a way where we're at choice, where we're connected to ourselves, we're anchored in something. We're not just going off into all the places we get triggered. And we're at the helm.
Yeah, and as I'm listening to you, I can really hear the thread pulled forward that we are following through in our series, which is that self-care isn't something that's one and done. Like you can just do it one day, or you can just do it for 30 days, or you can do a 21-day self-care challenge, and then like you're good. That because these different kinds of things that we face are different challenges as we grow, and every day feels different, and so many surprising things can happen in a day, that really self-care is a lifetime practice, and it's based on really building that relationship with yourself. I actually found today, I was posting some Mother's Day blogs and making sure that our old ones were on our new website, and I found an old blog from you that I'm going to repost that was how to be your best friend. And
I don't even remember. It'll be interesting for me to read that now.
that was so interesting to see them, but I was like, oh yeah, it's perfect, because it's really about setting aside some of the myths and pitfalls about self-care, which is like, it costs a lot of money, you have to have a lot of time. I mean, it's fine and it's great if someone's self-care routine really does include like a weekly chiropractor or a weekly massage or a beauty treatment or whatever. Like as long as it's an authentic thing that you're investing in and it makes you feel better and uplifts your energy, calibrates yourself, it's awesome. But yet, as you've pointed out, that we get kind of inundated right now with like, you should do self-care, and here are the things that you should do, and here's all the ways that it does look like. And if you're not getting up at 5 a.m. to meditate, make a green juice, do all of your laundry, have a clean house, like all this stuff that people say, have your bills all paid, like whatever all the things are that are on the list of self-care, it feels like you should be doing them every day before 8 a.m. when you're getting yourself to work, and that you're a failure if you haven't done it, and then you're exhausted and feel horrible about yourself.
That's really not self-care,
No, it's not. No, it's not. So we talk about like developing this relationship so that you can have a lifetime practice of self-care. So if you set aside all the shoulds and the to-do list of what we think we should be doing, what does that actually look like? So day to day for you, when you're practicing building that relationship with yourself as your best friend, and you're trying to cultivate a practice of self-care, what does that really look like?
Well, that's a really interesting question. I think that for a long time, just to be honest for myself, is that I relate it to self-care. Like I've got to figure out the thing that I can do that will help me feel more relaxed and at peace and cared for. And, it's very easy. I think you said this the other day, Betsy, to put something on your calendar, like a to-do of a self-care, and it actually starts to feel like a burden, and like you failed when you inevitably don't do it. I actually think that we need to feel the effect of self-care in our bodies to begin to embody becoming, in a sense, almost like a maternal force, like a protector of that need. So one of the things I think we could do this right now, which is just right now, the simplest way to think of care for yourself is think of something. It could be a memory. It could be an image. It could be imagining you're smelling something cooking. For me, I like to imagine I took one of my kids' baby blankets right out of the dryer and I pushed it up against my cheek. When I think of that, there's a little bit of a sense of like now, for some people, they can't figure out how to connect what I'm talking about. So I'm going to give a little trick way. Imagine you just had a shot of tequila. Right? But it works. You go, so my brother and I have this joke that when we're like, if we are witnessing one or the other starting to get tense, that you look eye to eye and you go, which is like reminding each other, just pretend you just had an imaginary shot of tequila. Or when you take a sip of wine and it first works. Or when you travel all day and you finally get to your room and you put your bags down and you go, we made it. Right.
For some people, it might be just getting into a hot bath, or that yoga pose, like the forward bend, or the cobra, or something where you're like,
oh yeah. It's that, and it's that moment of of connecting into like an inner sense of peacefulness.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I think is the easiest way to practice self-care is all day long, see if you can connect with something like an inner resource that's a portal to even a degree more relaxed than you are now.
Mm.
A lot of times I think we need to believe that we need to be relaxed when we're way up here. Well, what if we could just turn it down a notch and
Mhm.
then a notch from there? Because it's actually not workable to get from here to here like in an instant. But
Right.
what's workable is a little bit, a little bit. The more that you begin to feel that experience of like, oh yeah, right? That first moment when you get in the hot bath or you get into a bed with clean sheets, whatever it is for you, when you start practicing touching into that felt sense of peace, a little bit of unwinding in the body, you can begin to call on that throughout your life ongoingly. And what I believe is that you start to enjoy that experience in the body. So, of course, you're going to take time out in the middle of the day to go sit down and read a chapter in a book you really love.
Mhm.
Of course, you're going to make a ritual out of making tea. You won't be able to help it because you see and you feel in your body and in the results in your life, wow, I get along with people better. I have less conflict. I'm less obsessive. I sleep better. Whatever the results are for you. I have greater clarity. I actually feel smarter. That's what happens, by the way. A little quick little thing is that this helps you become more intelligent.
Mm.
This act of because then you're dropping down into your body and now you can access the wisdom of your body, not just this.
Right. A
This
lot
is
of
where
people
I've spent most of my life.
overcommit when they're too much in their head for sure. I also feel like one of the key elements of what you're describing, especially if you're new to a self-care practice that feels really integrated, like we're talking about, is just that pause to tune into yourself.
Yeah.
So if you're driving and you feel like kind of hunched up, it's like just taking a breath and pausing and being like, how do I feel right now? Like for me, it's a lot of an inner dialogue that's actually question and answer with myself. So I'll be like, how are you doing? I feel pretty good. Okay, great.
Right.
Need anything in this moment? No. Do I feel relaxed? Something like that. So it's like
Yeah.
every time I have a moment to stop and be like, how are you? Do you need something? I just do it. Like today, I was getting to an early meeting and I've had kind of a rough up and down week. And so I woke up just feeling sort of sideways and grouchy and the whole thing. But I was proud of myself. I got out of my house. I was plenty of time to my meeting. And before I was like, okay, how are you doing? Like, what is it that you need?
Hmm.
And the answer that came to me was hilarious. It was, you need a glass of water and a sense of humor. And I was like, you're right. Like that's the thing. But like, so yes, obviously if I had done another self-care thing, like gone to a class or walked my dog or done something that gave me a pause and recalibrated my system and felt good to either my mind, my body, or my spirit, yet that simple like pause of like, how am I doing really?
Right.
How do I feel? And what do you need? And then that authentic answer of you need a big glass of water and a sense of humor, maybe go, right, okay. And it shifted something in me that was like enough of a tweak to get to where you're going. It's like, oh, just a little more relaxed, a little more present, a little more able to do the next thing. And that's really what I am talking about. Now, I also feel like you said maternal earlier, and one of the things I've been present to is I become more like practicing this type of self care where it's this constant dialogue and paying attention to myself in a very
Hmm.
clear way, is that the responses that come off do feel somewhat maternal. Like
Yeah.
sometimes it's like clean your room. It's like the answer. And sometimes or eat your vegetables or take a nap or something like that. So it's not necessarily just like a voice that will let me off the hook, or sometimes it will. Sometimes it's like, don't answer the phone and
Yes.
binge watch something that you'll feel satisfied by watching. And like I get to do that because I'm a grown up and I've made that choice and organized myself so that can happen on a night or whatever. But
Yes.
a lot of times what you need right now, it's like a real honest thing that comes
Yes.
from that place of like, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to protect you. I have, your best interests in mind. I know you very well. And this is the thing that would best serve you in this moment.
Betsy, I think that you actually just made a really important distinction in that share, which is wonderful to listen to, which is that when we are, let's say we're above the waterline, and what I mean by that is we haven't touched into this place you are describing in a while. We're just kind of, we're in that mode of we've got deadlines, we're moving really fast, there's a huge organizational change happening, we just had a baby, or whatever it is. There's something going, we're planning a wedding, our company was bought out. There's something going on where we're just kind of like up in our heads, more in survival mode above the waterline, I think what happens is that a lot of our behavior gets driven, especially in difficult situations, by what we feel compelled to do. But what you're talking about is that by pausing and connecting with yourself, you actually connected with not what you felt compelled to do to get through what you had to do, but rather what was wise. And the answer was surprising, a glass of water and a sense of humor, right? But what we're talking about is that when we really prioritize bringing it down a notch, remembering we have a body, dropping down, asking what we need, there's a wisdom that the body has that does not exist up here. And so we're not really, as leaders, bringing the fullness of who we are to the table when we don't drop down into the body. And I would say that the people that we lead are counting on us because they can't be embodied in many situations if we're not. I mean, it's not that they can't, it's just that it's much harder for them. When you do the work it's not really work, it's just the connection. When you make that connection over and over and over again, not only does it make a profound difference for you, but I believe in your leadership that emanates out and begins to give people permission to do the same. And then you have a much better culture. You have a much better environment to work in.
And it's also that inside out decision about what the self-care is in the moment, as
Right.
opposed to an outside in, which you talked about before, which is like maybe this thing will fix it, like maybe this class or this book,
Yes.
or this podcast or this meditation or this glass of wine or this whatever that will take care of me. And you start scanning the environment to see what you can do outside in, but then you still might feel a little dissatisfied or a little off or a little whatever the thing is. Whereas if you start from like the inside out, then you can more thoughtfully choose the thing that will really satisfy
Right.
what you need in the moment, instead of just like trying all these different things and wondering why none of it works. There are a couple great articles out there, and I will put some in the links below, that talk about how to curate almost a self-care routine for you, and that it
Yeah.
has to be flexible and changing, but it doesn't have to be the thing that everyone's promoting. And really tuning into what is the thing that makes me feel good, what is the thing that works for me. It does help to try to make some of those things habits, like you said, whether if it's a cup of tea before bed, or how you have a coffee at break, or lighting a candle if you're working from home. Like, it doesn't matter what it is, it can be a really small thing, but if you are meditative brushing your teeth, like there
Right.
can be a way that you can infuse something that feels good in your day with another level of mindfulness and self-care than just going through the motions. And those habits and rituals will then start to create those pauses in a way that
Mm-hmm.
feels really fulfilling throughout your day. Yet only you know what that thing is.
Yes.
Only you know like the times of day that feel good for you, for sure.
And I think all of those things, whatever you come up with for yourself, what you're looking for is you're looking for things that are an invocation. They're a portal. They're a reminder. They're a loving, gentle finger pointing to, oh, let me say hello again to my body and remember that I don't have to just live lost in thinking. Because typically what happens is we're moving through our life and we intersect with something that's a problem.
Yeah.
Right? That triggers our fight or flight naturally, normally, nothing wrong with that. We're trying to survive. And then what we do is we immediately, the alarm in the body signals to us, oh, it's time to think. And
Mm-hmm.
so then we move upstairs and we think.
Mm-hmm.
But what we don't do is what you just described was, huh, coming down, what do I need right now? Like you're actually opening the door to a natural intelligence, a wisdom that maybe you don't even know is there to arise within you that actually gives you the wisdom of what you need to settle your system down a little more. And then you could have your glass of water, think about having a sense of humor. You might even need a second round. What do
Mm-hmm.
I need now? You
Right.
know, it's really about recognizing that I think true leadership rests upon that we stop abandoning ourselves
Mm-hmm.
and that we recognize that any experience we have, I don't care how accomplished you are, how many awards you've gotten, how much money you make, whatever it is, every single person on the planet is incredibly vulnerable, and you're going to have thoughts, emotions, and body sensations that your mind will say you shouldn't be having. And that's just simply not true.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And the other thing I'm struck by is that I think people collapse self-care with being healthy or like a fitness goal. So self-care isn't necessarily a goal because it's never done, it's a practice.
Yes.
And you may have like a health or fitness goal that you're working toward, just like you may have a financial goal or you may have a career goal.
Right.
So you may have a fitness goal around your weight or your physical activity or accomplishing like climbing a mountain or something, but that's not your self-care routine. That's a fitness goal. That's like a health and fitness goal,
Right.
right? So some people will think that like when we say do self-care, that it means have a fitness goal. And
Right.
yes, sometimes self-care can be, and if you look at the articles about self-care, there's a lot about getting your body in motion because
Mhm.
just what you're actually saying to is that pointing to that if we're too much in our heads and not as much in our body, one way to reconnect with our body is to move it.
Yes.
Desks, walking around the block with the dog, knowing when you are going to exercise to the point that you're at
Mhm.
least healthy, even if you don't have a fitness goal. So the exercise and food and sleep and meditation can all be integrated into the self-care routine that you curate for yourself, but it's not a fitness goal. Does that make sense? It seems
Yes.
somehow important to say because I feel like some people think that if they're not working out at a gym 5 days a week, they're not doing self-care, or if they're not
Mhm.
on a diet of some kind, or they're not doing self-care. It's like the self-care relationship is like a context, it's a practice. And then from that self
Right.
care relationship, you can choose what are my personal goals for my life and for my health and my well being.
Yes.
And those could be, for different points of time in your life.
Right. And Betsy, the thing is that I think also if we look at behavior that we engage in that we wish we would stop. So I'll just take one as a common example for a lot of women, which is emotional eating or overeating, right? So when we're engaging in a behavior that we wish we would stop, but we feel compelled to, we seem to not be able to stop it. Actually, what we can sense in ourselves is that the desire to care, to nurture ourselves is alive and well in that behavior. It's just that the behavior that we chose has consequences for that we don't like. It's not really working for us. The side effect, the collateral damage of it kind of negates any self-care effect.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we can also stop beating ourselves up for a lot of the behavior that we engage in where we're like, gosh, why do you always do that? Why do you say that? Why do you behave that way? Underneath it is actually this desire to care for the parts of ourselves that are wounded, that are hurt, that are vulnerable.
True.
And if we can start to say, well, gosh, I'm overeating a lot, this desire to care for myself must be really alive and well for me. Let me start to author and figure out what are other ways that this can feel nurtured and taken care of that don't involve food.
Right. Right.
Because the need is clearly there, but what you're doing isn't really meeting it.
Right. I might meet it momentarily in some way. So it goes back to some of that instant gratification type of thing.
Yes.
But in the long term, it's either neutralizes it or is even worse depending on how you talk to yourself about it or your relationship with yourself. So it's a very interesting topic, and I know that on our series we're talking about self-care as a practice like this, as well as mindfulness as an access point, so that pausing throughout the day to really be connected
Right.
to yourself, and then self-compassion, like really up leveling the dialogue we have with ourselves to be kind and generous and appreciative and grateful and not punishing. We have that inner dialogue that tends to be more of an inner critic than
Yeah.
inner best friend. And so just creating some awareness. And so those are the three components I would say that we're really trying to practice, is like, how do you build that relationship with yourself? So self-care is a lifestyle and a
Mhm.
practice that's ongoing. How do you integrate mindfulness pauses so that you can really tune into yourself authentically? And how do you shift your inner dialogue so it does feel like you're treating yourself like a cherished best friend or colleague, as opposed to someone that you're always disappointed in, you know? And that's
Mhm.
really what there is to work with, I would say.
Yeah.
Um, if you are looking at having a breakthrough in self-care. And then from there, you can choose from the vast menu of items that you could do each day to indulge yourself or make yourself feel even better or whatever that might be. But those are like the building blocks.
Yeah, I think that really in some ways what we're saying is the aspiration is to we all understand intellectually a lot about self-care. And the invitation for all of us is to deepen our body's connection to self-care, that our body's knowing of it, that we reclaim really what's our birthright,
Yeah.
which is to actually feel deeply nurtured and held and cared for.
Mm.
And that's something that we can learn to do for ourselves. So I think the most important thing, beginning point, is you have to give yourself permission that whatever experience you are having privately in the moment, in thoughts, feelings, and sensation, is allowed to be as it is. And
Yeah.
that is deserving of care and tenderness. If you can make that shift, so much else can unfold out of that.
Yeah. I get it. Yep. And it is up to us. Another thing that we remind people of is you can't be waiting for someone else, whether you have a significant other or not, or it's not something you're going to get from the outside. So developing that relationship with yourself to feel cared for, nurtured, paid attention to, that way. It's so funny how it works, because if you can develop that relationship and it's there for you, you actually have more to give in terms of love and compassion toward others in your life as well, as opposed to
Mhm.
feeling like you need that from them.
Right.
So the benefits of this, again, like we started talking about, are pretty big. So anyway, we've covered a lot of ground. I know that
Yep.
was a lot.
We
We're
keep on going.
deep in it for now. So I appreciate anyone who tuned in to this recording or watched us live. Again, we're Tiara International. You can find us online at tiaraleadership.com. If you're interested in our virtual programming that you can tune into every month, fresh content, and that's tiararesourcecircle.com. And you can like and subscribe here, like our Facebook page, follow us around, and you'll get videos like this about once a week. All right. Thank you so much, Allison. Hope you
Thank
have.
you. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.